Hello everybody, welcome back for another update video. This is an update for the month of May. We have made it. And of course, my dogs are gonna go nuts. They got their baths, huh? You guys got your baths? All nice and clean? All nice and clean? Theo wants to play. He's like, Mom, play with my tucker rope. Mom, play. And I just don't have time to, bud. I'm sorry. So, it has been an interesting month. I actually made a list because I have a hard time remembering things. So I made a list of things that went on this month so we can talk about it. The first thing that happened this month is the end of April, one of our tenants had handed us the keys to their apartment. And that means the long process of going through and checking to make sure everything was okay, and then fixing anything that needs fixed, and cleaning it, repainting it, and doing all that long process, and then posting it on everything to get it advertised and done. And then we usually do like a week's worth of appointments every 15 minutes. And I take a 2-hour section from about 4 to 6 o'clock, so that way I have time to cook dinner and then, eat with my family and then go back over to the apartment and continue on. Appointments usually start at like, excuse me. Wow. Appointments usually start around about 10 o'clock in the morning and go every 15 minutes until about 8 o'clock at night. So it is a long days when those happen, and it was entertaining to say the least. The only thing that was wrong with the apartment is it looked like at some point in time our tenant he forgot his keys somewhere, and instead of calling us so that way we could, go and open the door for him. I mean, it's literally a block down the road, so it's not like it's very far. I could walk there in like 2 minutes. They used a pry bar and pried open the second biggest window in this house, and the house was built in 1912, and it's a very large home. It was built in 1912, like my own home, and the windows for that, when we originally replaced the windows for that house, the windows were all odd sizes, and we were able to make some of them smaller because we replaced the windows before we redid the rest of the house. But there's a giant bay window, and I love the giant bay window. But then also in the kitchen, there's this, it is, I forget how big it is. It's a very long and tall window, but I loved the way it looked on the front of the house. So instead of going and making that a smaller window, I kept it as the big window. And I think it's, it was 40 inches by 40 inches wide by I think it was 60 odd inches tall. It's a pretty big window, and of course that was the one that broke, and we had to custom order the window, and that took so it was supposed to take 3 to 4 weeks for them to make, but it ended up only being about 2 weeks that it took them to make the window. So that was fantastic. So we were able to put it in and get everything done and everything resealed up and put that all in. But it was a pretty big expense and a pain in the butt. And, of course we let the previous tenant know, and he was like, yeah, I know, I did that. He apparently did it a while ago. And it's like, well, why didn't you tell us? Like, we would have immediately fixed that window, because when we first went in, the window was open, and we went to go and shut it. And thankfully, I wasn't standing too close whenever I went to go and shut it, because the window actually fell in onto me. So it took us a while to, my husband had to completely unseat the window and then, put it back down in where it was to make the window close and put it in. And then the one latch was broke, but thankfully that one had two, so we were able to lock it for the one, so that way it was closed and nobody could get back into the apartment. But you couldn't you couldn't open the window. You couldn't do anything with it because if you unlatched it and everything, it was going to fall in at you because he had broke the vinyl of the window. I was like, man, why couldn't it have just been the glass? Like, I could replace the glass really easily, but the actual vinyl part of the window, I couldn't replace that. So we got that all fixed. That's part of what my husband does for work is he does weatherization through a program that we have through our state. Sit down, Kim. Nobody wants to hear you guys jingle all over. Just sit down and love me. And he goes and replaces windows and puts insulation in and, you know, seals plates. And, I mean, there's all kinds of work they do. So, thankfully, it was something my husband could just, you know, easily pull in and out. And him and I argued for a long time because he was like, you know, we'll just go and we'll get a standard window and we'll put it in. And I argued pretty hardcore with him because we spent a ridiculous amount of money on the outside of this house, making it so that way all the windows look like they were supposed to be there and everything was done very evenly. And, you know, because those older houses aren't always, you know, done level and things are not always flush and things like that. So we spent a lot of time and money making sure that these things were done. So I was just like, listen, we spent an exorbitant amount of money making sure this is right. There's no way you're going to go and slap a smaller window in here and then this window, it's on the front of the house, it's going to look funny. It's not happening. So eventually he agreed with me, which it ended up, my dad is a retired contractor. And thankfully, he had enough business connections and things like that we were able to go and just order this window and not have to pay a real ridiculous price. I mean, we did end up paying, you know, by the time it was all said and done, right around about $500 to get the window and everything back into place and make it look like nothing had ever happened. And, you know, my husband wasn't happy with that, but I was just like, no, I'm happy because you can't tell. Like, he's a guy. He's just not one of these, he's not somebody that focuses on detail. He leaves, that's always left up to me with detail, the way that we, you know, when I picked the colors for our house, it was a, darker blue shade, but not like real dark. And then white around the windows and white on the doors and white corners of the house because we have a very large, well, we have a decent sized house. And I was trying to explain to him, like, if we don't do the outside white corners on this house, it, like, before it was the old shingled siding that they used to put on to protect the houses, that's what was on the outside of this house. And it was in very bad condition and it was starting to come off and stuff. And when I picked out all the colors and things, because there was black in there, there was redwood, there was the white, and then I want to say it's not quite navy blue, like, but it's definitely a darker blue, but it's not navy blue. And was trying to explain to him that, like, if we don't use these other colors to break this blue apart, because of the size of the house, it'll look like we used to call it the green beast, because it had the green siding on the outside of it that was falling off. And it's like, it'll become a blue beast because it's the size of the house. It'll just look ridiculous if we just do all the blue. And then once everything, I mean, we get compliments on this house all the time now because this house was in really bad shape when we bought it, and people couldn't believe the fact that, you know, we were able to fix it. And thankfully I have, like I said, a dad who's a contractor, so it's not like I had to pay an exorbitant amount in labor fees, because I was able to, you know, my brother-in-laws and my dad and my husband and me and my sisters and everybody, you know, we just all went together. And of course, you know, I paid them all, but I didn't have to pay as much as I would if I would have used one of, like, like, you know, had to hire a contractor. My dad's not going to charge me as much as, you know, another contractor or anything. But we got all that stuff situated and fixed. I had Vincent extra this month because his dad works down on the rigs, oil rigs, and he works out of state. And he literally got home on Wednesday and got called Wednesday night, and they basically said, hey, we had somebody not show up. Can you come down? I guess they found out later that somebody passed in that person's family, and they just they just forgot to call because they were dealing with a lot, which makes a lot of sense. And asked him, can you come down for another week, and we'll just let you off for 3 weeks, after you're done with this week, because that guy obviously really needed that week off because, it was somebody important to him and somebody had passed. So, of course, my brother-in-law, Brian, said, yeah, absolutely, let me just call my sister-in-law, make sure she's okay with taking Vincent, because I was expecting to not have him for the next 2 weeks. And sure enough, I was just like, yeah, that's fine. And then, it clicked in my brain, oh my God, Ray is leaving, my husband is leaving Sunday for school, and he won't be back until Friday. And I was just like, oh no, I am biting off more than I can chew. So Vincent ended up coming down. His dad ended up bringing him down Wednesday because my sister was working. And I had him overnight from Wednesday night to Thursday night because she worked Wednesday, Thursday. So she was going to have off, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I got Vincent Wednesday night, and then, it pretty much he called and asked, and it was as long as it took him to pack his stuff up to get back on the road, to go back down to the rigs. And so while I had Vincent, I was also doing... No, that was whenever I was supposed to have. But anyways, Ray had left Sunday and went to his final schooling that he needed to do so that way he can get a promotion at work. And I had Vincent as well. And then, this is the final week of school. But last week was the week where they were doing, field days, the final concerts, the award ceremonies. What else did they do? Just all the stuff, and it's all 3 of our kids are deal with different things. Damon had his awards ceremony, and he got his academic letter, and Abby had her award ceremony, and she got the academic achievement award for literature, which you have to have a 95% in that class or above for the entire year. And Lydia got, oh my gosh, what did Lydia get? I can't remember what Lydia got, and she's going to be upset with me because I can't remember. Best classroom helper or something like that. It's not a state award or anything like that. It's just given by her teacher. And then Lydia had her field day, which means, you have to pack the lunch, and they have to bring in, because they usually a beach towel and a water bottle, because they have they were having a picnic outside. They were staying outside all day long. It was a beautiful day for them to have that. So they stayed outside all day long, and they had the picnic outside. And then after they had the picnic, they were playing with water. So, you had to send in an extra pair of clothes for the kids to change into, as long as you didn't mind if the kids got wet. They had a water balloon fight. I didn't really care either way. As long as she's having fun, that's all that matters to me. So we got that done. And then Abby is in choir, so she had her choir concert, and we had to go to that. So it was and on top of that, I got Vincent Sunday night, and then I had him Monday night, and then Tuesday. And because Ray's gone, now I usually go to bed at 9 o'clock, and Ray tends to stay up until about 10:30. Our Theo, I'm gonna stutter here, specifically, he, because he's diabetic, his bladder can only hold so much. before he starts freaking out. And they both sleep in crates at night because Theo is a chewer and he will chew absolutely everything and anything underneath the sun. So I have to be careful with him because I don't want him to choke on something or eat something he's not supposed to and have, harm himself, essentially. And I don't feel like it's fair that Cammy would get to come upstairs and sleep in bed with us while he's downstairs in a crate all by himself. So we just make sure that they're both crated overnight. And if you don't crate Theo, if he doesn't go outside for the last time right around 10 o'clock, he will wake you up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, letting you know that, like, I have to go to the bathroom and I have to go to the bathroom now. So it's easier for me to just try and stay awake for the extra hour to put him to bed. Now, keep in mind, I had Vincent at the same time as the first 2 days that Raymond was gone. And Vincent is used to going to bed at the same time I am, and that's 9 o'clock. And I would, at his house, he can be taken upstairs and put in his bed, and he will lay down and he will go to sleep in his room, no problem. My house, though, if I take him upstairs and put him in his bed, which is in my room, because I don't have another room to stick him in, he will scream bloody murder and freak out if I'm not in that room with him. So I have to be in that room with him in order for him to fall asleep and not scream and cry, because that's just I don't know. I just don't like hearing him scream and cry. It's just mean. And the other kids are already in bed because they had obviously school the next day. But if I take Vincent up, he screams and he wakes them all up. So it's just this nose ring of mine. So if I had to wait to put him to bed until after I took both dogs out to go to the bathroom at night and then put them in their crates and then gather up all of his things and then put him into bed. Well, Monday night, can't even remember what I was doing. And this was the week that I wasn't supposed to have him. Monday night, I was sitting in my chair right here, and I don't remember what the guy was doing. But somehow he got, like I said, a tenant had just moved out, and we go over and we rug scrub all the carpets and we do all the things. And I sent my husband up. I was done with it. It was finished because he had just came from mowing lawns and stuff. And I was like, do not walk into this apartment, even though the downstairs of it has wood floors. The upstairs isn't. It's carpeted. And I was like, do not walk up because the stairs are carpeted as well. Do not walk up these stairs. Do not walk anywhere upstairs with your gross, dirty shoes, please, after I just cleaned all this up. And I was like, I'm going to bring he was like, is there anything I need to take over? Is there anything here I can help you with? I was like, well, not with your dirty clothes on. But I was like, you can take the rug scrubber back for me. You can take, there were a couple different things, but the rug scrubber is the biggest one that's sticking out to me because he was bringing it home and I was like, do me a favor and just empty out the reservoir tank out in the grass because why dump it down the drain? And he was like, okay, I'll do that. And he brought it home here and he stuck it back in our house where it goes, and it sits here in this living room because I don't have freaking closet space because this house is old and there's no sticking closets. And I didn't know that he didn't empty out the waste tank. I didn't know that. Well, it doesn't, the way this rug scrubber does, it doesn't, the waste tank doesn't really lock in. There's no way to lock it in. But anyways, Vincent apparently had pulled it out. I didn't hear him do it. I don't even remember what the guy was doing, but I was doing something that needed my attention. But he was, I turned on Charlotte's Web for him, and usually when I turn on Charlotte's Web, which is his favorite movie to watch, he'll sit still for a bit. Well, he didn't sit still, and he took the waste tank out, and he brought the waste tank over, and on the top of the waste tank, the way it sits, there's a hole, so that way it can feed into it, and it doesn't block off. And he tipped it upside down, dumped it all over what the guy I was doing, dumped it all over me, dumped it all over my chair, dumped it all over the floor, all over himself. And it's already, at this point in time, it was 15 minutes till 10 o'clock. And I'm dragging because I'm exhausted and tired because I was dealing with him all day and plus doing everything for my children. and taking care of the dogs, taking care of everything was on my shoulders. My husband's not home. And I was just like, oh my God. And now I had to clean this mess up because it was dirty water. And so I set him down on the couch on like timeout and made him sit still. And as I went out to the kitchen to grab all the things I was going to need to now mop up this giant mess, as well as I'm soaked in gross dirty water. And as I'm cleaning that up, now my back is turned to him from where our couch sits. I couldn't really see him. And then he decided, one of my daughters apparently needed lotion, and they didn't put the lotion back where it goes. And it's one of those like pump bottles. Vincent grabbed the pump bottle and covered himself and my couch and then the floor and the dogs and lotion. I was just like, oh my God, this night is not going to get any better. So I immediately stopped cleaning up off the floor and started tackling him and getting all the lotion off of him and the dogs and putting that lotion back up where it goes. And then I turned on, I forget, I think it's Coco Melon he loves. I can't remember half of the things that he likes to watch, and then sat him on my husband's chair that sits next to me, so that way I could see him while I was finishing cleaning up all this stuff. And then I took the dogs out to the bathroom, got myself cleaned up, got those guys put away, and then I finally got everything, his diaper changed, him changed, got everything finished, and we went to bed. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that day, I swear to God, it was like it was never going to end. And then also, I think 3 out of the 7 days that I showed the apartment initially for people to view the apartment to see if they want to rent it and fill out the application and everything else, I had Vincent with me, and he absolutely loved it. And that porch also has, like my porch has gates on it that you can shut the gates, so that way if you have little kids or whatever. So I just opened up like the back door of the apartment there that led out onto the small porch and gated him in and closed the gates and stuff, so that way he couldn't get down off it, so that way he could run from inside to outside, because it was beautiful out and he loves being outside. And then we started playing hide and seek in between people, and I was like chasing around the apartment, and with the wood floors and stuff, his little trucks and stuff could go real far, and we were seeing who could roll it the fastest. I mean, we were just having a blast in there. I was exhausted by the end of the day whenever it was all said and done. You know, oh man, I didn't even have time to like sit down and make myself something to eat for lunch. Like before I even left my house, like I was making sure that like I had everything ready so that I could put it in the fridge there, and I could pull it out real quick and stick it out on. I have this little foldable table that sits really low to the ground that he just sits on the ground, and he could eat his lunch there, and you know, hurry up and slap it on the plate for him so he could eat and things like that. And it was exhausting. And then Mother's Day just passed too. I had a really nice day Mother's Day, except for the tail end of it I had to spend at the ER. My friend Coral and her husband had invited us up for a nice, you know, Mother's Day cookout, and she has twin boys and that are the same age as my son Damon, and then she has one that's a year older than Abigail, and Lydia just loves going and playing with the dogs and the chickens and the turkeys and the rabbits and everything else. So she was satisfied with playing with that stuff. So it was nice to be able to go and have our kids hang out with some of their friends. And Damon, Devin, and I think Andrew were playing on the trampoline. They were jumping around. I shouldn't really say playing. They're 17, gosh darn years old. They were jumping around on the trampoline, and not like roughhousing or anything, just jumping around. And Devin came down and ended up landing on Damon's wrist, and of course it started swelling and looked nasty. So after we finished eating and everything, and you know, it's like, hey, sorry, we gotta run. Like, I hate to eat and just run, but you know, I gotta go see what's going on with this kid's stinking arm. So we went to our ER and our emergency room, and took him in, and we sat down, and there was only one lady in there, and I was like, oh, maybe it won't be so bad, because if there's a lot of people in the waiting room, you're going to be there for a really, really long time. And we get in there, and I get them all checked in and everything, and we sit down, and we're waiting there for about an hour and a half, and the lady that was in front of us, she's still sitting there, and she gets up, and she asks me, like, do you know about how long it's going to take? My husband works night shift, and, we've been here a while, and if it's going to be a while, then I need to just send him home, and I'll have to call somebody else to come and sit with me. And they had said that, there was only one doctor in and only a handful of nurses. So, it was probably going to be a while. And she was like, okay, that's fine. And, sent her husband on her way. And it was probably about 15 minutes later, another lady came in. She was probably maybe in her 50s. And I hate the way that our new ER is set up, because, like, there's no privacy now. Like, when you walk up and, like, go and check in for why, like, you're there, and, like, everybody in the room can hear. And she was there because she was afraid she might have bronchitis, and that was it. They, asked her, you're not struggling breathing or anything like that, and she was like, no. And she goes and she sits down with, I don't know if it was her son or who it was, but she had somebody there with her. And she sat there for maybe 15 minutes before she went back up to the reception desk and complained. And, she gave her the same spiel that she gave the other lady about it. And so then that lady went and sat back down. And then next thing I know, literally she sat there for maybe 10 minutes. I don't even think it was that long, before she was back up and throwing some sort of a stink. And when she was throwing a stink, the lady that was before my son and I, she had went back for triage. And usually whenever you go back, you go back into a room, you don't come back out to the waiting room. Well, that lady, the lady with bronchitis suspected bronchitis, was complaining a whole lot as that other lady had went back to triage. And next thing I know, that lady's coming back in and sitting down, and then they call this lady with bronchitis. After my son and I have been sitting there for about 2.5 hours, and the entire time he's like, Mom, my arm is killing me because these seats, there's no way for him to lay his arm or his wrist or anything without, it really bogging him. And he's like, how long is this going to take? And then they went and triaged that other lady with the suspected bronchitis, and she never came back out. She immediately went back into a bed. And at that point in time, I was pretty freaking irritated, because I have a kid sitting here who might have a broken wrist, that it's swollen, he's in pain, he's uncomfortable, and you're letting this lady who might have bronchitis, who has no other health issues or anything, go in before somebody who's sitting here in pain. So I was pretty frustrated. So I went up to the receptionist and I asked, like, what is going on? How long is this? And she's like, oh, well, it's going to take a really long time because you have this lady in front of you and she's got to go in first. And I was like, but you just let a lady who has no health conditions, who might have bronchitis, at which the entire time she was sitting there, she never coughed or wheezed or anything. Nothing. No labor breathing, anything. Go in first before the lady who's been sitting here before my son and I, or my son and I. And the lady who had been sitting there before my son and I, she's like, yeah, I've been sitting here since 3 o'clock. And at this point in time, it's 9 o'clock at night. So, I mean, she had been sitting in the ER waiting room for 6 hours. And I was just like, and I asked Damon, I said, what do you want to do? I'll leave it up to you. I can cancel all this. We can go home, because clearly you're not going to get any help here for hours on end, and you're in pain and you're uncomfortable. I can take you home, give you some ibuprofen and stuff, get some more ice on your wrist again, and we can get you set up in your bed and get you comfortable, and you can see if you can go to sleep or whatever, and I can get a hold of your doctor in the morning. And I said, it'll be quick if we just go the route through your doctor. What do you want to do? Because I was leaving it up to him, because I'm not the one sitting in pain. I'll sit here if you want to sit here. But he was like, No, Mom. Like, I've had enough. It hurts worse sitting here because I can't place my arm in any position where it doesn't feel like, that arm it's just hurting. So I was like, I told the receptionist, just take us off. We're done. Forget about us. We'll just go home. And we got home, and I gave him his some ibuprofen and stuff, and I got him set up in his room and everything. And I mean, he was there he was just like, he was tired, and he went to bed pretty quick. And we got him home and set up, and I called immediately as soon as his doctor's office opened up in the morning, called them, got him in, and we were literally between going to his doctor's office and then going over to the hospital to take x-rays and then going back over to the doctor's office. Literally took us 1 hour, and then we were able to come home. And within that time, all we found out is that he sprained his wrist pretty bad, so he has to wear a brace right now. I think right now it's because he went to the doctor's last week. Right now, he only needs to wear the brace if it starts hurting and bugging him. But he didn't even take his brace with him to school. So it must be feeling pretty good for him to not even bother taking it, because he was taking it pretty religiously. So he must be feeling pretty good. What else did I have wrote down here? Oh, Grandma Joanne's floors got installed. And she's pretty upset with the vinyl flooring that went down, because we specifically picked out a kind of vinyl flooring that doesn't have a mixture of colors. It's kind of a solid color. It still looks like wood, but, it wasn't very naughty and things like that, but it was one solid color. Well, they laid down the flooring in her dining room, and it's kind of ridiculous. Like, the dark shade is... The color that we picked out for the flooring was the medium shade. And in the sample, that's the only color that was inside the sample they had inside the store that we picked it from. And this floor is like, the light shade is like natural bare wood. And then the dark shade is like, it's almost like a very deep dark brown. And then the medium shade was what we picked out. And there's like 3 pieces of the medium shade throughout the entire floor. The rest of it is mostly this light, and then there's a little bit of the dark color. But the way that they laid this floor down was like we get like patches of one color here and a patch of this color. Like, they didn't know what they were doing when they were laying it down. It's supposed to be staggered so that way it all would blend in and blend through, and you don't have, big giants. Like, it literally looks like someone accidentally spilled paint on the floor in certain spots. It looks bad. And there was nothing we could do, so we called the company, and they're gonna come, and now they're just gonna put carpeting over it. They're gonna take up that old floor and put the new carpeting that she put down in her living room and stuff in her dining room, which is kind of frustrating, because the whole point of putting the vinyl in the dining room was because her dogs are, I think they just turned 17. They're very old, and they are having a much harder time controlling their bladder and things like that, and they are pottying inside the house, and it's mostly inside that dining room. So we wanted to get that, her dining room and her foyer. The foyer looks great. They actually staggered the flooring in there, and it doesn't look so bad. But she had carpet in the dining room before, and that's why we had the carpet ripped up, because 1, it was pretty old and it was time for it to be replaced, but 2, it was just, we wanted to put the vinyl flooring in there so that way if the dogs made a mess or whatever, it wasn't going to ruin the floor, and it wasn't that big of a deal. But now she has to get the carpet put in, so that's kind of defeats the purpose of why we even put the vinyl flooring down in the first place. But it doesn't matter. It's getting fixed, and as long as she's happy, I'm happy. And her furniture's come in. Her furniture is being delivered on June 7th, so she gets that pretty quickly, and I'm excited to see how things go. She's really nervous about a bunch of different things, and it's like, yeah, listen, once we get it all in here, it'll be fine. Because she likes doing the detail work, of picking out the flowers that go in the room, and the curtains and the drapes, and the knick-knacky things, you know, the little things. So she's getting nervous about everything that she's going to have to switch up for that. And I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal as she thinks it is. But it's hard to tell. So, enough of me yapping at the gums. I've been doing it for long enough. Let's get into some stitching. Oop, of course I would drop it. The first project I'm going to show you is in Harmony. Here is a picture of it. And then I will show you what it looked like last time you saw it. Sorry, Cam. And this is what it looks like now. So I completed, let's see if I can get this, essentially everything from here down and then over into here. This is a dimensions kit, just a regular dimensions kit. Everything I'm using is from the kit. I stitch on this for 5 days because that's usually what I do, is 5 days. That one. And then this one. And I will show you a picture of what it looked like last month when you saw this one. This one is Epic Disney Style by Clouds Factory. This one is stitched on 18 count. It is hand dyed by me. All the recommended colors. It's all DMC and things. And I'll show you a picture of what it looked like last month. And then I finished this month Mulan and started on Tangled. There it is. This project is so huge. I'm loving it though. We're getting pretty good. I think I have 4 more. I got a chart. And then all my charting's done. I thought it would take me a heck of a lot longer to chart all the ones that weren't on here, but I think I find an email left to do. I have the Aristocrats. I have Dumbo. There's a couple of them left that I've got to do. Okay. This is, I'll put a picture in here on what it will look like when it's finished. This is Cathedral Wood Goddess by Mirabilia. Now, whenever I was over in the apartment we were renting out, I took this stitch with me so that way I had something to do, because some people show up late, some people show up early, some people don't show up at all for these appointments that they've made. So I like to make sure that I have something to do in case somebody doesn't show up, because I don't want to sit there forever and feel like, you know, going crazy. So this is the one that I took with me, and I stitched on it for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I stitched on it for 6 days. And here's what she looks like. Let me see if I can pull this up here this way. And this is how much I got done on her. It's quite a bit. And this is 28 count. It's hand dyed by me, and of course using everything that's called for. But yep, I'm getting closer. I got quite a bit of done on her. And then what's next? What's next? Woo woo. And that's this one. I think it goes this way. This way outside, right? I will show you a picture of what it'll look like when it's finished. And then what you saw it last time. And this is what it looks like now. This is Maria McKillen. It's by Bella Filipina. It's stitched on 28 count. And it is hand dyed by me. And I think I stitched this area here, if I remember right, this month. Stitching that in. And I worked on this one for 6 days, but I think I was working on it at the same time I was working on the wood goddess, if I remember right. So it wasn't a whole lot of time that I spent on either one, because I was essentially working on 2 of them at one time. And then next one. This one is a new start. This one is Lakapati by Bella Filipina. This is being stitched on 28 count. It's hand dyed by me. And this is how far I got, which is pretty far. It's not too bad. Let's see how close we can get. As this is 1/1 stitching, and this is obviously the regular 2/2. But this fabric I dyed myself. And the final one I worked on this month was show you what it'll look like when it's finished, and then what it looked like last time you saw it, and this is what it looks like now. This is Mini Victorian Garden by Heaven and Hearst Design. It's done on 28 count, even weave, and that's how far I got. But that is it for this month, and I don't think there's anything else I need to talk about or go over. Plans are like they always are. I will, the Epic Disney Sow is my main focus, so that'll definitely get stitched on this month. And then whatever I decide to stitch on, I usually try and stitch on it for 5 days and then move on to my next project, because I found that like 5 days, like I don't get bogged down by a project if I just stitch for 5 days. But I don't have any idea which ones I'll be stitching on. I don't think I plan on starting anything. No, I don't think so. I don't think I need to start anything new. Although my best friend, she was here while this morning while I was getting everything out for stuff, and she really loves the fancy ladies. So she was like, when you finish stitching those, you tell me how much you want for one of those and I will buy it. And I was just like, well, why don't I just make one for your birthday? And then I told her which site to go to. I said, and you know, who to look up, and it was like, you know, pick out which one you want. And then if there's multiple of them, I said, I will pay for the first pattern, the beads and the floss and stuff like that. But any other ones, you pay for it. I'll stitch it. You don't have to pay for me to stitch it. I'll just stitch it for you, because I don't really care. I just want to stitch it. It's fine by me. So got to figure out what she wants there, but she's got to pick it out soon because her birthday's in October, and if I'm going to have it finished, then I need to start working on it ASAP. And that's that. But other than that, I don't think there's anything else we're going on. It'll be a surprise what gets stitched next month other than the Epic Disney Sow. So thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me while we looked at all my stuff that I did this month. For those of you that have subscribed and hung out, thank you very much. You have no idea what that's like. It's really neat to know that people want to see what they come up to. If you haven't liked and subscribed, if you like what you see, well, what are you waiting for? Come hang out with me every month. And then, well, once a week, really. I do my Stitch With Me videos every other week that I'm not posting an update. But thanks for hanging out, guys. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.